Good morning, WOW TV viewers. My name is Maria for WOW TV, and welcome to another segment of the Georgia Straight Weekly with editor Charlie Smith. Buenos días, me llamo María Camila y están viendo WOW TV. 大家早上好，请你们在看 WOW TV 的 interview. So Charlie, what is on the cover of this week's magazine?
Well, this is Shane Koizan, who's a very well-known Vancouver spoken word artist. But first I have to comment, you spoke Spanish, you spoke Mandarin, you spoke English, all fluently with no accent. I have only one question for you, Maria. Parlez-vous français?
Oui, je parle un peu. Yeah, I come from a very multicultural family. My mom is Chinese, my dad is Colombian. I grew up here in Canada, and I'm learning French, and I really like all languages, so that's why I speak that many.
That's terrific. So getting back to this, Shane Koizan burst to prominence in around the world, actually, at the Olympic opening ceremonies in Vancouver when he did a spoken word performance about diversity in Canada. Now he's working with the Vancouver Opera to do a performance called Stick Boy, and it's a world premiere. And it started when, after the Amanda Todd, the tragic suicide of the teenage girl in Coquitlam, and Shane was quite affected by that. So he did a video about bullying and acknowledging that he was bullied, and then he became a bully, and how he came to terms with that. So what he's done is he's provided kind of the backbone for a Vancouver Opera production, which is based on his life. And so this is a really important event, I think, in Vancouver. And it's, you know, the opera, often they'll do shows like Carmen and the traditional, but this is a very contemporary. I think it will have appeal to younger people. And Shane grew up in Kelowna, BC boy, and he's really opened up his heart. I've seen him perform at different things over the years, and we've seen a really thriving, they say Vancouver's the capital of spoken word artistry in Canada, and Shane is definitely one of the reasons why.
Wow, so don't forget to check out Stick Boy by the Vancouver Opera, running October 23rd to November 7th at the Playhouse Theatre. And one day before October 23rd, October 22nd, someone is giving a very special lecture. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, this is Adrienne Clarkson, the former Governor General of Canada, and she's had a fascinating life. She's doing the Massey Lectures, which is something that's done by CBC Radio every year. So they always take a famous Canadian. So, you know, one year Douglas Copeland did it. Another year it was Stephen Lewis. Another year it was Margaret Atwood. Well, this time Adrienne Clarkson, who's the former Governor General, she's, and they also publish a book. So there's House of Anansi Press has published Belonging, which is Adrienne Clarkson, the theme of her lectures. So they do 5 lectures in 5 cities. So Vancouver, she'll be at the Chan Center on October 22nd. Adrienne Clarkson was actually an immigrant from Hong Kong. She moved here when she was 2 years old. Japanese invaded Hong Kong, basically a refugee. She and her father and her sister, they came to Canada, and she became the head of state. So it's quite an incredible rise to go from, you know, being a war-torn, displaced person to then emerge to be basically the person with the power to fire the prime minister. But she has a fierce intellect. She's extremely intelligent. She burst to prominence in the 1960s on a show called Take 5 on CBC. And she was telling me how here she was competing with about 36 people for the job. The first time a person of Chinese descent became a national figure on television, and coming into people's living rooms. So she was a pioneer in a lot of ways, and I think she's been a fantastic role model for people across the country.
Great, and you told us that she has a very positive outlook on Canada and our country. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, what she's looked at is, she's a very deep thinker, and one of the things that Canada's kind of been based on is Western civilization traditionally, and that goes back to the Greeks and the creation of democracy and this notion that everyone votes But actually, what she points out, in Greek times, not everyone voted. You know, women didn't vote, slaves didn't vote, people who weren't from Athens didn't vote. And we had a similar experience in Canada, that for many years, people of Chinese descent didn't vote, Aboriginal people didn't vote, people of Indian descent didn't vote, women didn't vote until they obtained the franchise. But she also says that, okay, so this has permeated our culture, and there's a lot of positives there. But at the same time, as we've become more diverse, we can learn a lot from the different cultures that are coming to Canada, from Buddhist traditions, from Hindu traditions, from you know, what's taken place in Africa, what's taken place in South America. And so she talks, this theme of belonging is how you can almost retain your culture but belong to the other culture. So she likens it to that we're a country almost like ice cubes, and she was borrowing from someone else, that we start to melt and we become connected with the water, but we retain our shape, and we still have this, you know, this part of ourselves that is still linked to other parts of the world and is a part of us and who we are. And so what she says with the next generation coming up in politics and in the arts and in other areas, we're going to see different ideas emerge and different thoughts about how to belong. And some cultures are much more collective than others. I think Western civilization tends to be very individualistic. Your family on the Colombian side is probably quite used to maybe more of a collective approach and more togetherness. And the East Asian tradition is very family-centric. And so this is going to change Canada, and she thinks it'll change Canada for the better and make us stronger and more resilient and able to deal with the world.
Oh, definitely. She sounds very inspiring, and I can't wait to check out her lecture at the Chance Center on October 22nd.